Welcome to the Impact of Educational Leadership podcast with ID3 for Isaiah Jerome III. This show was designed to provide an exclusive forum on educational achievement gaps related to learner success while discovering relationships and family issues in a diverse setting. All right, this is another night of the Impact of Educational Leadership. This is episode 44. I'm your host, ID3 for Isaiah Jerome III. Tonight's panelists are the lovely Nina Taylor, Dr. Melvin Mosley, and BigCtheEncourager. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to the people. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Awesomeness. Well, tonight's topic is giving young people the power to be world changers. Everybody in business at one time or another, and probably more than once, has witnessed the results of poor leadership. A leader is someone that people trust to carry them from one place to another. Leadership goes beyond a title or a position. Rather, leadership is a process forged by our identities, values, and experiences. Everyone on this planet has that potential to become a good leader in society. This includes adolescents that are economically disadvantaged. Some people just need help navigating through the leadership journey. Tonight, we have some very, very seasoned cadre with a wealth of experience to help us in this discussion on giving young people the power to be world leaders. Our first panelist is Dr. Mosley. Dr. Mosley is the Chief Human Resource Officer for Patron Energy, a secondary gas exploration company. He has over 20 years experience working as a strategic leader, talent developer, performance improvement and team building professional in the financial services, telecommunication and petroleum exploration industries and nonprofit sectors. He was honored with the Dover Hose Memorial Speaking Award by the U.S. Junior Chamber of Commerce in recognition as Outstanding Speaker in America in 1988. He received the Operational Excellence Award from Policy Studies Incorporated in recognition of his organizational learning teams, operational excellence, work with the WorkSource for Dallas County. Currently, he is an adjunct professor at Abilene Christian University in their Division of Business for their Global Organization Leadership Program. He holds a doctorate in management of organizational leadership from the University of Phoenix, a Master's of Science, Human Resources Training and Development from Abilene University, and a Bachelor's of Science degree in Psychology, Political Science from Oklahoma Christian University. Dr. Mosley, my first question for you, how are you doing again, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, sir, my first question for you, Dr. Mosley, is how do we move from fixing problems with economically disadvantaged students to building on their strengths?
Well, that's a very good question. And first, let me say that I'm honored to be with Ms. Nina, and Big C for this topic. Before we can address the issue, I want to state something. Now, we talked about the initial question is how can we help students to be world changers? You cannot give someone something you do not have. And that means that our children, our disadvantaged youth, are a mirror of our society in terms of our community, their family, and their school system. And prior to addressing this problem, we must understand the origin and nature of the problem itself. Our youth are, as I mentioned, our youth is a mirror of us in terms of society, in terms of, as I shared with you, the family, community, and school. Young people only mirror what they have seen, heard, and experienced. I must admit that the problem in terms of leadership is to reprogram our youth and to show and develop them into effective leaders. I use the terms show and develop, which means, as you mentioned, Isaiah, it conjures up the notion it's a process of repetitive learning and modeling. Economically disadvantaged youth are at a disadvantage in part for the failure of the family unit and the school system not showing them responsible personhood. Let me explain that statement. Now, we can discuss self-imposed disadvantages for these disadvantaged youth, rather than focus on how our students are disadvantaged externally. We have to admit and address the internal disadvantage of our youth. I strongly advocate that our students need to see strong African American leadership in the home. They have to see leadership locally, statewide, and on a national level. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, as I mentioned before, they model what they see. So we have to reprogram them to see something better, because see, as teachers, you cannot reprogram a student because they're not with you more time they are with their families. So we have to create a new norm for our students. And I'm talking about those who are in the classroom. So that's how I would address that particular question.
Wow. You know, you talked about origins, you talked about mirrors. To me, that was an impartation. You can't impart something you don't have to impart, right? And they have to see this on a repetitive process, repetitive conditions. They have to see leadership in their environment, not necessarily just their home, but just in their environment, because you cannot develop a child without competence. You got to have competence to get to character. And for you to have character, you got to have character to get to social connections, to communicate, right? But you can't do any of that effectively, I believe, without compassion, right? So the compassion with the social connection and the character, right, produces that competence that can now have or give that leader confidence, like you have, sir, to be successful and to have successful outcomes in the youth, so that now that's that model. And if we're speaking about African Americans or Hispanics, right, that are in these economically disadvantaged environments, then those are those positive, I love what you said, those are those positive role models that they get to mirror from, right? Because that's who I want to be like, because I see this person doing this, and they're not in and out of bad situations. They're making positive decisions, so they're making positive decision-making outcomes. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to college, but they have a good job. They don't have a bunch of mess, a bunch of drama going on all over the neighborhood. I love the way you responded to that question, sir. I can go on and on with that, but I'm not going to be selfish. I'm going to share it. The next, thank you so much, Dr. Mosley. Thank you so much for that response. Next, we have here Big C, the Encourager, Charles Scott, also known as Big C, the Encourager. He's a professional songwriter, composer, actor, counselor, pastor. He's a vocalist. Wow. He's worked in stage plays with the Potter's House for the legendary Bishop T.D. Jakes. He has worked with artists all over the United States, such as Calvin Hughes and friends, Shirley Caesar, John P. Key, David Peston, Carnell Morrell, and he's even worked on the same stage with the legendary Reverend Dr. Billy Graham. He's been featured on Dallas-based television programs. Big C, the Encourager, please hello again to the people, sir.
Well, I'd like to just say, first of all, Isaiah, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to even share, period. And then I want to honor our other guest, Sister Nina Taylor and Dr. Melvin Mosley. I want to thank them for imparting to the audience and to the community and world information. The Bible says we perish because of a lack of knowledge. So I appreciate all of you guys just letting me come in with my sharing tonight. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We thank you so much, sir. Big C, I want to pour from you. You have really been working with young people in the community. You are a servant leader. And so we wanted to invite you on tonight to give your perspective. And the question we have for you is, what are some tools that you use or that can be used to, instead of reacting to problem behavior in adolescence, but you can use a proactive approach, right, to build positive outcomes in the young people that you're working with. And we're kind of asking for, what do you do that works with young people?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Isaiah. I've been mentoring for over 8 years, and just to get to the skinny of it, the tools that I've learned to use with young people is this. First of all, before I go into mentor with anyone, I always pray and ask the Holy Spirit to show me what to do and what to say and how to deal with them, because as Dr. Mosley talked about, a lot of the things that they deal with, a lot of it comes from the home and from their close mentors, which are mostly their peers. So a lot of times we have to pray and allow God to show us how to approach them from that perspective. And a lot of times you do have children that come in and they've dealt with so many different things in their lives. Some of them 13 years old on up, some younger that I've even mentored. And a lot of them are trying to find themselves, trying to find their identity, trying to find where they fit in life. One of the tools that I use is to sit down and let them talk to me. I don't try to do all the talking. You learn more by listening than you do talking. So I try to not tell them everything what I do and about me, because it's not about that. It's about listening to them, first of all, and allowing your wisdom and experience to discern some things from them. One of the tools I've even used, brother, I'm just being honest, I do group sessions and one-on-ones. So when I do one-on-ones, a lot of times I pray with the students. I pray with them, because one thing I know, prayer is an effective tool to get to the soul of a man or a woman in that regard. A lot of times I pray. There are times that I have materials. Sometimes I do have books or notes that I'll actually have them read, because I teach them, speak it out of yourself. Put it in the atmosphere where you can physically hear what you said, and then start to believe what you said and act upon what you said. Another thing in being proactive is this, and I may say this again within the conversation later. One thing that I've learned a lot of these young people are missing is love. Dr. Mosley said compassion, which they're on the same plane basically. But love, I've learned a lot of them are lacking love. I use one example. There's one young man that I mentored with. He was 14 years old. I'll just say it this way. His pigmentation is not like yours and mine. But because of love that was shown to him, when he had a chance to mentor with somebody else of the opposite pigmentation, he didn't even want to be around that person. He asked the principals and assistant principals for me, because I showed him love. I showed him something he wasn't even getting at home. So now, even after that, it's been over 2 years, I still keep up with this young man, because that's what I told him through integrity I would do. When he left the school, the alternative school, I said to him, when you go back to school, do you want me to still keep in contact with you? He said, you would do that? I'm like, yes, because I care. I've never been paid a dime for my mentoring. And I've said I've been doing it 8 years. I wouldn't mind receiving a dime. Let's not get it twisted. But that's not the heart of it for me. I do it because I really care about these young people and I believe in them. So that's how we begin to build positive outcomes. That's one of the ways. So I didn't want to be too long. I know you gave us a time frame, but that is one of the reasons I did want to share.
You know, I could listen to you talk all day. But see, love, I like how you use the word love as a tool, because it is. Love is a tool. And to me, love is the greatest fighter of all time. And you can win just about anybody with love. And so the prayer with the love, that's that compassion, that's that caring, that's that connection, and that's how you connect with the people that you're mentoring with. And kids know if you love them or not. Come on, let's be real about it. They know who cares and who doesn't. They know who's coming there just for a paycheck and who is actually thinking about them. Don't get me started. Big C, you struck a nerve. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that response. Next we have Nina Taylor. Nina has a bachelor's of science in both broadcast journalism and psychology. During her 30 years in radio, Nina became the station promoter and brought many outstanding national gospel artists to Ohio while promoting the radio station. Nina has an international news segment entitled The Gospel News that airs on over 400 stations in the U.S., Canada, and the United Kingdom, also in Africa. Nina can be heard nationally on her show, The Gospel Express Daily. I'm laughing right now because I know some things that's taking off for her, but I'm going to be quiet. She also has Praise Radio that airs at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time on KRGN 98.5 FM, K-Way Gospel, Hip Hop Nation Radio, Love Radio Nation Network, Spiritual Soul Radio, and the list goes on and on. I just said 400 stations. Anyway, so she also has I know, right? She also has the Sunday morning lineup on KROV. So, Nina, please say hello to the people.
Hello, everyone. Big C. So nice to hear you. I think I might be repeating some of the things that has already been said by Brother Big C and Dr. Mosley. How are you, sir? Go ahead.
Your question is, you know, girl. Well, let me do this. Your question is, instead of targeting troubled youth, how do you engage with all youth? That's my question.
Okay, let me just say that first, I am an educator in the public school system. I work in the inner city, and I am proud to say I'm one of the most loved teachers in that school, and that is the truth. I didn't say it, everybody tells me that, and I appreciate it. And like you did say, kids do know when you do care about them. But to answer your question, I think it goes back to getting the kids motivated, and it's very, very true, especially in my school. I'm at a special needs school. Majority of my kids were born with some type of addiction due to, you know, their parents being addicted to this or that while, you know, they were intrautero. So it was difficult, but it is very rewarding because I see that just because you come from that kind of situation, you can rise above it, you can be smart, and that's what I try to stress with them, you know. I try to stress with them each and every day. And a lot of these kids are not from, you know, the typical family. A lot of my kids are living in foster homes. They're living with grandparents. They're living with aunts, you know. Like I said, the parents may have had drug problems. They may be incarcerated. So I would say 70% of my kids are not living in the typical household with the mom and or the dad. So the caregiver, whoever is the caregiver of that child, they got to get involved with their education. Our kids who do the best are the ones whose parents are right on the front line with us, working together with us. We're not against, it's not us against you and your family. We're the educator, and we have to work with whoever is caring for you. We're a team. We're a team working together for the kids. So we got to let them know that, yes, I care about you, and I got to know that there's somebody at home who's working with you on my behalf when I'm not with you. You know, positive enforcement is another great thing. We instituted a program this past year. Now, we don't have surprisingly, we don't have a lot of behavior issue at my school, but I've been to some other schools where if we didn't have to call the cops but twice that day, it was a good day. So I've been in that kind of a situation. We had a program called Caught Doing Good, and for that we gave them tickets, and with the tickets they were able to win prizes, and that was such a great program. And we had some fantastic stuff, stuff that was donated, some stuff that we bought, and that was a great thing. So we're rewarding you, we're watching you, yes, but when you do good, we want everybody to know it, and that worked really well for us. So rewarding them for doing great things is always been good, and also letting them see the big picture that yes, you're in kindergarten today, yes, you're in first grade today, but what do you want to do in the future? I'm talking about your future. I'm always talking to them, even at 5 years old, I'm talking to them about their future and letting them know that beyond this, what are you going to do? What do you want to be? You don't have, just because your dad's in jail, just because your mother's in jail, you don't have to end up that way. You definitely do not have to end up that way. And we're here to give you all the tools to make sure that doesn't happen. So, helping them to see beyond their situation right now, letting them know that you care, and seeing what their interests are and help cultivating those. If they have an interest in music, I'm always watching out for the ones who can sing. I'm always watching out for the ones who have an interest in music, and I try to push that because these programs are free. And having them do something besides come to school, go home, do your homework. If they have interest in athletics or art or something besides, or science, help cultivate that. That has helped us so much in keeping them from getting in any kind of trouble, and it's something to look forward to. I mean, think about it. If you're living in a foster home, you might not feel like you have a whole lot to look forward to, but my mom getting out, my mom coming to get me one day, having them to look at some positive things in their life and how you can help them with it. That's one of the main things.
Wow. I love hearing you talk. But you can hear your heart. You can hear your heart. You listen with your heart, Nina. You do. Dr. Mosley, you also listen with your heart. Big C, you listen with your heart. And like I was saying, like I was sharing, and like what Dr. Mosley had said earlier about it has to be repetitive. You got to be consistent with this. And so it requires discipline. You got to be disciplined. In order to be consistent, you have to be disciplined. In order to be relentless, you have to have a discipline. And you got to be organized. And you got to be committed. And you can't be confident without those things. And you yourself have to have self-worth in order to give it. And I mean, I have to go back to what Dr. Mosley said, because he's so right. You can't impart something that you don't have to give. And so you can't impart love and caring to kids if you don't have love and caring yourself. And so, you don't have enough, you haven't been given enough measure of that to pour out to a kid that's thirsty. These kids, a lot of these kids are thirsty for love, and so they go to wherever they think they may get love from, and most of the times, depending on where the kids are, it's usually a bad decision. Thank you so much. That really, that struck home for me. My question to you, Dr. Mosley, is what are some ways that teachers can move from just looking at kids, students as a paycheck and as a problem, and start looking at them as a resource and looking at them as potential and looking at them as active participants in this learning process?
I want to preface everything I'm going to say. I applaud Nina and Big C's comments because, the things that I was able to take from what both of those people, loving people had mentioned, was that care, compassion, listening, and time. Those are the attributes that these kids are not getting at home. That's why they flock to it. So, since teachers are the second and third image that students see, again, we have to promote a healthy family unit that promotes literacy and responsible young citizens. It is not the teacher's responsibility to try to change the family atmosphere that these kids come from. Well, they need to know there is another way to be productive, to be progressive, and to be emotionally healthy. And I got that from Big C and Nina. It's important that teachers are unable to undo what has been systematically and habitually ingrained in the minds and heart of our students. when the family and community structure is in disarray. And the reason why I'm mentioning that, it's important that we stop pointing the fingers to everybody else outside of our community and look what's happening in our community, because our children are a mirror or a reflection of our family community, our religious community, and our social community. So responsible teachers, leading educators can be an invaluable resource for building positive students. It takes a partnership. Our young people will always be recipients of services, but we have to re-engineer the type of services they are recipients of, like the family, the community, and education. Teaching our young people to be hungry and proactive toward education, learning, and the attainment of various skills can provide them with mentors in these respective professions. They need to see and be around professional people like Nina and Big C and yourself, Isaiah, who can help them see life differently than what they see every day. They need to see and be around these professionals so they can desire to become like people that they are. Either way life goes, the student is going to mimic what they see, what they hear, and what others do around them. Let's make sure in our particular classrooms of life that students see you as a responsible, ethical, and career-driven professional. Then their resources are expanded, including their minds and heart. Now, I want to close by mentioning this, because Big E mentioned something that was interesting. Now, Isaiah, you know I was at the hospital the other day, right? One of my young people that I used to teach, she was the nurse. And she remembered a lot of things that I taught her because I'm teaching her son. And that made me feel great about that, because she remembered. She remembered how I acted, and she remembered my behavior. And every time I saw her, even when she became an adult, I would encourage her. See, and everybody, and I know Nina and Big C see this in their profession as well. Young people will appreciate the goodness you bring into their lives. So let us bring goodness to their lives in the short time span that we have them. Isaiah?
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. Smooth as always. I want to talk about the topic one more time for the listening audience. Our topic tonight is giving young people the power to be world changers. You just heard from Dr. Melvin Mosley. You know, the real resource is the teacher having the tools to give the kid so that they can pass it down. It's a generational thing. And so that this child, this student, this participant carries on that legacy. And so when you got to be careful as a teacher or as a leader to give them good identities, give them good values, give them good experiences, because those are the ingredients that person is going to use to give to the next person. Dr. Mosley, I love the way you aligned that with the topic tonight. I know you like to use those big words like triangulated, but I love the way you brought that home. If this were a baseball field, you hit a home run. Thank you so much. With that being said, BigCtheEncourager, my next question is for you, sir. Traditionally, mentors focus on programs and interventions. Now they focus on relationships. Give us some examples of how mentorship programs focus now more on relationships than they do interventions.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that as well, Isaiah. One thing I want to put in there before I elaborate on that, one thing that I've learned over the years of being a mentor, and I'm sure that Sister Nina and Dr. Mosley have as well, these young people don't care how much you know. They just want to know how much you care. That's very important, because as you said earlier, they can discern when you fake. They know it. So and as long as all of us have been in this mentoring world, if your heart is not in it, then you're not fooling the kids, you're fooling yourself. But anyway, one thing that we learned is this. When you talked about earlier about relationships, it gave me a illustration or picture of when you're dealing with these young people, it's almost like when you're married, because you have to have the same tools in your toolbox for a marriage to work, a business relationship or any kind of relationship, and that's commitment, discipline, consistency, compassion, integrity, and agape. You got to have all those. If you don't have those things in the inside of building relationships, then you have nothing. You just own the ship. You don't even have a relationship. So one thing that we want to do, and to address your question, some examples of how mentorship programs focus more on relationships. I know for myself, one thing I've learned, as we all have stated tonight, a lot of these young people don't have parents in the home, or they got one parent in the home, or situations like that. I've met some young people who don't have any parents in the home. They basically raising themselves because dad's not there in some cases. Mom's working 3 jobs just to take care of 4 or 5 children in the house. So a lot of times, the oldest or next to oldest child is having to take care of the family, do the cooking and doing the discipline and all that. And if they don't know these things, they can't give it away, as we said earlier in our conversation at large. So one thing that we want to do is this. We want to build relationships with them. One of the most important things we can do that a lot of us don't get to do, but it's important, is being able to spend more time with these young people. As Dr. Mosley said, the more they can see the example, the more they can learn to be the example. And a lot of times, we're only able, for me, I know, able to mentor maybe 2-3 hours at a time at the most with a lot of these young people. And that helps them, but if you're not able to be around them on like at least an hour or so a day on a daily basis, they get some of it, but if you are inconsistent and they just see you periodically and they're spending more time around negativity, it's going to be a tussle for them. But if there's ways where we can deal with them outside of the schools, as we talked about earlier, have some other types of programs where we can be around them if time permits, where they're exposed to us more, that helps them a lot. They're looking for us. And to say overall to the listener out there, we need you. We can't do it all. We would love to do it all. We would love, but God only gave us 2 arms and 2 legs and so on. So we need you. We need your wisdom. We need your experience. You know, maybe you may not have the degree in this or that, but if you have love and you have time, black men especially, they need you. Even if you've made mistakes, who hasn't? Share that. Be transparent. Let them know some of the bumps in the road that you had to help them to hopefully avoid some of that, and then turn around and tell them what you did to change it so they can begin to have more trust. That's another thing, is them being able to trust. I know I'm going too far, so I'll stop. But I just wanted to share those things. And again, in closing, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come on and share. And if Lord willing, and if you need me, let me know, and I would be glad to come back on. Thank you very much.
No. We thank you because, my God, you gave us a lot tonight. Everyone has. I think the thing that stuck out the most was agape, because agape love is the highest form of love that men can give, and that's that unconditional love, that's that God love, that's that divine love, and that really ties into what Nina was talking about, as far as, you know, they're gonna know if you care about them or not. And like you said, Big C, it's not how much you know, but it's how much you care. And that lines up with Dr. Mosley, again, with the repetition, because if you just do it one day, then it's not going to mean anything, and they're really not going to remember it. So it has to be consistent. It has to be, like you said, Big C, you got to have that commitment. So you got to be disciplined. You gave us so much, Big C. you gave us your heart. And that's something that I really hope the listeners will be able to enjoy. And that's your heart that you gave, because that's something that I'll have to go back and listen to this over and over again, because if I just hear it one time, that's really not going to satisfy my appetite. And so this is one of those podcasts that you have to, go back and play it back again and again and again, just to get all the nourishment out of this podcast. I mean, this was almost like a sermon. Anyway, with that being said, moving to my next panelist here, the lovely Nina Taylor. My question for you is, how important is developing relationships for young people? Big C kind of answered it a little bit, but I want to hear from you. How important is developing relationships for young people to become positive contributors in society and in the community? In your perspective.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sitting back here saying amen to what's being said here. Well, if anyone knows anything about, what I do, I'm not a traditional teacher. I work with children who test below average. These are the ones who are testing below average. And my job is to get them to the point where they're testing at the average level so that they can pass into the next grade. So it's challenging. I have 15 kids this year. Last year I had 24. Well, for one thing, you're talking about relationships. I'm in a program. Well, I'm not in it anymore. But for 13 years, I was in a program called Big Sisters. It was Big Sisters, and we had Big Brothers here, where I live at. And most of my kids were inner city kids who their parents were teenage mom and dad. They're, living below the poverty level, and they were trying to, the idea was to not repeat the cycle. Okay, your mom, at the time when I started in the program, I was in my 20s. One of my little sisters, her mom was 2 years younger than me. She had her when she was 14 years old, and she was now 15. So I did my best to be, just not to put her mom down or anything like that, but just have her hang out with me and say, you can go to school, you can be this. Anyway, long story short is that the relationships that I made with the girls, two of them went on to win several state pageants, went to Miss USA, one is a doctor now, so it doesn't have to repeat. Letting them know that just because your mom didn't do this, your mom didn't do that, she's in jail, he's in jail, whatever it is, you don't have to do that. That's not you. You can still go on and be great things. And they proved that with that program. Not only me, a lot of we've had great success rates with that particular program. But just like you said about the love, they do know it's not uncommon for kids who I had 5 years ago to come by my room and say, I just need to talk. And I let them know, okay, when you pass to the next grade, if you have any problems, my door is always open. Come and see me. And sometimes some of the teachers will get angry. Leave her alone. Don't go by there. I said, it's okay. It's okay. And I've had to actually go and talk to them one-on-one and say, listen, don't get mad when she or he wants to come by and talk, because this is what our relationship is. Come by if you need to talk, you just want to hang out for a few minutes, that's fine with me. As long as I don't have kids, as long as I'm not in class, and you're not supposed to be in class, let's do this. So just building that relationship and that trust, like you said. We have a program called Peak where they send the bad kids. I did that for a year. Of course, that's not a job you want to do every day. But like you're cutting up in class or you got into a fight, they send you to Peak. It's supposed to be positive efforts, adjustments, and knowledge. But that's not really what it is. It's nothing but a detention room. So I tried to make that room, instead of a room where you come to be punished, come in here and I want you to learn something while you're here. The little ones, I had the older ones teaching the little ones. And I noticed that a couple of them were very, very good with the little ones. And even one of those kids who was bad since the day he stepped in that school at 4 years old, he went on to do some great things and even started a mentoring program at his own school after being told that he was bad and he was never going to be anything and you're going to end up in jail like your dad. No, and I said, that's not true. That's not true. I said, you're a great teacher. And I kept putting that in his head. And then after a while, the kids wanted to come to Peak when I would be down there. So it doesn't have to always be a negative thing. Take the negative things and turn it into a positive thing. Show them that you care and you really, really care about their future. They know it if you're sincere or not. And just one last thing, just want to see more black males, more African American males getting involved with the school systems as mentors. They make up only 2% nationwide of the public school systems. That's 2%. That's a very small. So when a black male comes into the building, it's like, everybody gets all excited because it's rare. You don't see it at all. But I'd like to see more programs where more African American men are coming into the school system and working with them, even if they're just sitting down and just talking to them. Just having a relationship with them, a positive one, other than what they're used to seeing out in the streets.
Nina, thank you. You're just so pleasant, and you say so what? Nina Taylor is famous, by the way.
It feels like we're related or something. You know how you have like a cousin? And
we are. We are. Listen, we're almost. Well, we're out of time. But with that being said. What are the takeaways tonight? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. My takeaway, again, Dr. Mosley, I thank you so much. I love listening to you talk always. Is just, like I said, I'm hoping that, this may be my last year in the public school system. But, if it's not, if I have to do another year, because I'll have my master's by August. I'm in the master's program, but I was saying that this is going to be my last year in the school system. But if it's not, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing, to continue just being me, and hopefully the relationships that I made with the kids, is going to last them throughout the rest of their lives.
Amen. I guess I'll go next. My take is just the thing. Iron sharpens iron. And do we want to be iron to these young people, or do we want to just be 10? Do we want to be an impressionist toward them, or do we want to make an impact? My goal is to leave this world empty. My goal is to make an impact. I don't have any biological children of my own. I never have, but I have a heart for them. My goal is to know that if I leave here today, that I've said something or showed them something that they can carry on to the generation that I'll never see. That's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Nina and Big C. I would like to say this. I am honored to have this panel with Nina and Big C today, because I know the challenges that they face being in education as a profession, as well as being a mentor. And I too have no biological children. But I got over 100 of my children who are now adults. But the reason why I do it, the reason why I mentor them and in their lives, because as Big C said, they don't have anybody who cares about them. So the takeaway is that we start caring about our people instead of using these kids as a means to an end for us. Isaiah?
What a classy night. Listen, this has been another impactful night of the Impact and Education Leadership. This was episode 44. I'm your host, ID3 for Isaiah Jones III. Our panelists tonight, the lovely Nina Taylor, Dr. Melvin Mosley, and Big C, the Encourager. Our topic was giving young people the power to be world changers. And good night. Love you all. Stay safe.
Welcome to the Impact of Educational Leadership podcast with ID3 for Isaiah Jones III. This show was designed to provide an exclusive forum on educational achievement gaps related to learner success while discovering relationships and family issues in a diverse setting.